Cold Hollow was a quiet town tucked into the misty hills of New England. On Halloween in 1947, tragedy struck when the annual town festival went horribly wrong. The townsfolk had gathered around the main square for the usual festivities: apple bobbing, hayrides, and a costume contest. As twilight descended, everyone began to crowd around the new haunted maze, which was set up inside an old, abandoned barn. This year, the maze was decorated with real scarecrows, stolen gravestones, and eerie props made from animal bones and fur. The barn, once the town's oldest structure, had always seemed a little too quiet, almost watchful. Locals claimed the land around it was foul and avoided it except on Halloween. That year, though, the townsfolk had decided to use it, hoping to make the holiday especially memorable. But around 10 p.m., something went wrong. Witnesses say they heard a loud creak from above, and without warning, one of the kerosene lanterns near the maze was knocked over. Flames spread instantly, fueled by the dry old wood of the barn and the Halloween decorations. The fire was sudden and fierce, consuming the barn within minutes. Not everyone made it out in time. 13 people perished in the blaze that night. The townsfolk were devastated, but in the weeks that followed, an eerie rumor began to spread. People swore they could hear faint screams coming from the barn's remains late at night. And each year on Halloween, the barn would rebuild itself, people said. No one could explain it, but every Halloween, the wreckage looked just a little less charred, the outline of the building more solid, as if it wanted to stand again. One year, a group of teenagers dared each other to go to the barn on Halloween night. Laughing, they crossed the field and pushed through the barn doors, only to find themselves stepping inside a perfectly intact version of the maze. They thought it was some kind of prank or an illusion, but then one of them noticed a familiar scarecrow with a strange mask on its head. It was eerily lifelike, with real eyes staring out of the stitched face. They felt a shiver, but laughed it off, pushing through the maze. Suddenly, the laughter turned to screams. The door had vanished, leaving only walls of straw and shadow. As they ran, each twist in the maze seemed to lead them back to the same room, with that same scarecrow watching them, though each time it was closer. In a panic, they split up, each going their own way in search of an exit. One by one, they vanished. The townspeople found only 2 survivors that night, both of them huddled near the barn's doors, covered in soot, mumbling about voices calling their names in the maze. The others were never found. After that night, Cold Hollow's Halloween festival stopped. People boarded up the barn, warning newcomers to stay away. But every Halloween, locals claim they still see the barn glow faintly in the night, flames licking the edges of the building, with figures moving inside, reenacting that horrible night in 1947. No one enters the barn anymore, but sometimes, on a particularly dark Halloween, a few brave souls claim to hear whispers around it, voices calling them inside, daring them to join the festival that never really ended.